Hi, and welcome to the OT is In, the podcast where we merge the worlds of education and occupational therapy to empower families like yours. I'm Sarah Collins, your host, an occupational therapist and a homeschooling parent. I've experienced occupational therapy by supporting families for over 15 years, but also through seeking out support of my own children, so I'm right here in the trenches with you. Though there is not one way to educate your child, there is a lot to consider when individualizing an education. And the goal of this podcast is to explain some of the why behind what an occupational therapist is thinking so you can apply it to your own family. Especially with my three favorite topics: executive functioning, handwriting, and sensory processing. Each episode will be packed with practical tips, expert interviews, and real-life stories aimed at helping you to create a supportive learning environment for your child. So, grab your headphones and get ready to dive in of the collision of education and occupational therapy. I'm Sarah Collins from Homeschool OT, and I'm thrilled to have you with me on this journey of discovery. You guys, everyone has a weather story, whether it's a thunderstorm that lit up the sky, a snow day that changed your plans, or the heat that makes you slow down. But why are we talking about the weather on an occupational therapy podcast? Well, because weather shapes our routines, it sparks conversations, and it even impacts how we process the world around us. In today's episode, I'm joined by Ross Forsyth from the National Weather Museum and Science Center to explore how weather connects to sensory processing, social skills, and executive functioning, and how families can use it to build curiosity, connection, and everyday learning. I'm your host, Sarah Collins, and today I'm excited to dive into this unexpected but meaningful topic. Together, we'll uncover how something as simple as the weather can spark learning, connection, and even new opportunities for families. So grab your headphones and let's dig in. Hey, how's the weather where you are? It's cool over here now that fall's coming in. Guys, this is a question that we get asked every day, but for kids, it can be so much more. Weather can spark conversations that build social skills, help kids notice their body's responses through interoception, and even deepen their sensory awareness as they explore sound, light, and movement in nature. That's what makes the National Weather Museum's Weather Kids experience so special. This interactive platform invites kids to feel, see, and explore weather in a way that's accurate, creative, and fun. It's hands-on learning that opens the door to real connections. And weather doesn't stop at science. It ties into math through patterns and data, into literature and storytelling, art and photography, and even engineering as kids think about how humans interact with each of these elements. The Weather Kids experience weaves all of this together in one immersive, engaging space. So the next time that you ask, "How's the weather?" remember, it's also a question that can spark wonder, learning, and connection. So visit wxkids.org to look around or purchase their annual membership and use the code HOMESCHOOLOT in all caps for 10% off and experience where weather becomes wonder. Now, on with the show. Hey, and welcome back to the OT is In. My name is Sarah Collins, and I'm here actually with Ross Forsyth. So this is an interesting conversation. We have been talking about social skills for primarily the entire month of October. And as I was thinking about social skills, Ross and I were talking about the number of times that people just mention weather, specifically on, I'm getting up in the morning. This morning, even I went for a walk and I'm going around my neighborhood and people are like, look at the sun and wow, nice day outside today. So it became a perfect time for Ross and I to really discuss the weather. So Ross, before, we really dive into this topic and people I'm sure are like, wait, what? We're talking about weather. Tell us your story, kind of where you came from, why you're passionate about this topic, and what it has to do with the homeschool community.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sarah. My name is Ross Forsyth. I'm the executive director of the National Weather Museum and Science Center, and we're located in Norman, Oklahoma. And we've been there really since 2008. It really started out of a Norman Chamber of Commerce weather committee that my father was leading. And so as they got to the point where they had the idea but needed to make it a reality. He was retiring. He was a meteorologist for his whole career in the Air Force and then at the National Severe Storms Lab. So as he was retiring, he had a bunch of artifacts actually that he'd been kind of accumulating over his career. And yeah, we just got together, my background in business and startups and product creation. We just said, let's throw it in a warehouse and see who comes. And anyway, the National Weather Museum and Science Center was born. And we really kind of we used a traveling museum, a trailer for many years to go out in the community to schools and different STEM festivals. But in 2016, we've got the storefront. And so we've got a fully built plane, the only one authorized to fly through thunderstorms in the world. We have that. It's all armor plated, bulletproof glass, just to be able to fly through hailstorms and collect data. And so, yeah, that kind of has been the journey, and we've kept building on it since then. And I took over for him when he passed away to really drive into different, how do we scale this?
Mhm.
The excitement we see every week with visitors, how do we scale this to more people? And so that's where the Weather Kids, WX Kids program was developed of just this curiosity, excitement that people feel about weather, but everybody's different. So if they like photography, we could say, here's some really great weather photography. If they like computer programming, math, we have models to show and simulations for tornadoes or hurricanes and everything in between, aviation, creativity, so emergency management. So there's really some avenue for almost everyone. And that's been really exciting to build. And now with the Weather Kids, we're really expanding our reach.
There's so much I think that you've just talked about there, but one of the biggest things that popped out to me is when you were like, the different topics that people find interesting and how your role is to help to pique their curiosity. I love that. How do you feel like weather helps to just pique curiosity for students?
Yeah, I think it starts with, as you mentioned at the beginning, kind of a common denominator of
Mhm.
social skills of we all kind of meet and we're dealing with something, the weather that's bigger than ourselves. We can't control it. It influences how we dress and all these things. But when you look through a lens of that and it opens the door to picking up your camera or going outside or even a baseball game getting canceled or delayed, that collective disappointment. We all sort of feel that and we can connect there and then, kind of express ourselves from that common ground.
Yeah, so we've got this commonality, and then you can kind of start to build deeper relationships, from that commonality. Do you find that when students are coming into your museum and or, you're going out to their schools or, through the Weather Kids, do you feel like you're seeing that commonality, build these social skills and these deeper relationships in there too?
Yeah, I'd say, we've had students come in and interacted with students that they get excited to explain,
Yeah.
whether they were in a storm or a tornado or, it snowed on Christmas. And so there's this like natural excitement that, you want to share sort of something very personal to yourself. And, the language is common and
Yeah.
you kind of understand. I think it's inherent that I know someone will understand this because of they share in it, even
Yeah,
though
it's
it's
like a
kind of
lived experience that others, yeah,
exactly.
that others around you are going to share.
And so that kind of breaks the ice or,
Mhm.
is a really good on ramp to expressing yourself and explaining a personal journey. And I think it's very easy just to get back to the social of kind of the ping pong as people are learning to converse. It's,
Mhm.
well, it felt cold too, or I wore a jacket. And it's very easy to grab those phrases, especially for
Yeah.
early kids. And then they're usually their sweater has something on it, so it leads into another interest and kind of blossoms from there.
That's so beautiful. Now, as kids get older, I also love how you mentioned like there's, the meteorology science side, there's the photography here. You've got airplanes that are going in, so we've got aviation, like so many other parts of academics or just parts of interest, right? That are can also be commonality, but could also be, oh, this is why I'm interested in weather, or it's different from you, but we still have the same base interest. Can you tell me some of the other avenues that you're, helping kids to explore?
Yeah, so music is one. The one I talk about a lot is Garth Brooks' Thunder Rolls, and that, hit that, is very, but it's hard to not find a song that doesn't have some paintbrush of weather in it to sort of set the scene. And so I think, certainly music, even weather broadcasting. So,
Yeah.
day to day, but even Wizard of Oz, the tornado scene. I just saw really interesting. They're doing the Wizard of Oz at the Sphere in Las Vegas, and one of the scenes is you're in the tornado, and so
Oh, that's
there's a
fascinating.
Twister, of course. So there's an
Mhm.
entertainment sort of element, storytelling, gardening, and even farming. So our food supply and how it's tied to the weather, making those decisions, and that lane of careers, even aviation, emergency management, storm preparedness kinds of realms. So yeah, it's really, and then something I like to talk about is the entrepreneurship lane of this. So whether you're going to like the thunder blanket for an animal, like someone
Yeah.
recognized a need and this sort of anxiety, and created a product, and weather tech floor mats. So there's, my dad and I used to always talk that it was just the kind of the possibilities was endless. And mine wasn't to be a media, but I'm leading this weather museum and this
Yeah.
education piece. So I really think you can find kind of anything you're curious about, you could find it through the lens of weather, and grow through that. And that's really how we've designed the Weather Kids program. Is we start with very basic concepts, and then by grade 9 through 12, it's looking at calculus and this really advanced thermodynamics and how to understand that. And it's something you can walk outside your door and see in real life. So it's not, you don't need a fancy lab, you don't need a lot of equipment, just some basic tools to see really complex thermodynamic and things of that nature.
I love that because there's having teenagers myself, especially now a senior in high school, and the amount of times that she's talking about advanced math and whatever, and she's like, I have no idea why I'm learning this. And I love how what you're saying gives a function and a reason and like an underlying why to some of the things that we're exposing them to.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's you can really take advanced math or some of these theoretical things, and put your hand on them or feel them,
Yeah.
the pressure change across even health. There's a lot of people that feel the weather literally with in their joints or in their sinuses is
Yeah.
pressure, low pressure, and so it's a very felt experience, and it's helps to kind of ease people into these concepts and then root them there. And then as they go on to explore even like theoretical math, you have some starting point of where you got into this journey.
Fascinating. From an OT lens, the sensory piece. I mean, you said, this is kind of a felt experience. We often talk about, how our bodies feel like, even the cold, the hot, this is one of the beginning ways that we start to teach our kids about interoception, which is understanding internally what's going on inside of our bodies. But oftentimes we have to be able to like look and see like, oh my gosh, I put my hand in something, my hand is wet, my hand is cold, be able to build some of these adjectives. And I love the way, weather would be doing that. So many different ways, even thinking about what we're going to wear, how our body is reacting. Like I can see my chill bumps on my arms, all of these different things that we're able to notice about our bodies. Do you have a tie-in or parts of that within, the Weather Kids app and or, the museum where you are helping kids to really hone in on their own body?
Yeah, I think it starts at a young age with what to wear. So
Mhm.
as the program develops at the younger end of the scale, there's the dashboard looks different. So instead of getting temperature of 90 degrees today, it's this is what you might wear.
Mhm.
And so it's that feeling of telling the weather by what you put on your body, and is it heavy or light? The shoes, is it sandals or not? So I think it really starts there. And then as you go further on, you get more into that data piece on the dashboard as for older students that'll understand that a little bit better. But we do have like a weather connect. So we think weather is this ultimate connection and being present,
Mhm.
being able to say like, is it wet outside? Do I need an umbrella? How's this, how am I feeling today? There's some complexity of rain making you feel tired or
Yeah.
that kind of feeling that wanting to take a nap. And so anyway, we start with that as kind of the connected piece of self-reflection, but also describing, and learning with a parent. So I think that that's an important piece is that it is a shared experience and that it's very easy to share your day and that way. So we use emojis for the younger scale of like, it was sunny, I felt hot, I did
Yeah.
this today, I painted, and kind of that, or I want to. Even it can be forward looking, and then the parent describing their day as well, and so it starts a conversation there, and we hope that kind of is a self reflection of how they felt, but also even sort of social reading other people of
Yeah.
like, did they have a good day? Were they hot? What did you do when you got hot? So yeah, I think it's one of the most valuable pieces is fostering that connection and being able to articulate it and sort of read it in real time in a sense.
Hey, it's Sarah, popping in for a quick minute to share a resource that I am genuinely excited about. The FORM or FORM curriculum from Form Education. If you're looking for a biblically based health and PE curriculum that supports your child's whole development, this is it. FORM gives you everything you need in one place. There's animated videos, devotional and teaching guides, movement videos, and auto-graded assessments, all designed to help your kids grow, not just physically, but in their faith and their self-awareness as well. It can be used within the home or as part of a co-op. Guys, I'm the gym teacher for our co-op this year for 3rd and 4th graders, and I can't wait to get started because I know I'll be providing really great lessons and it's going to help to give them fitness, nourishment, information on rest, and it's all designed not just for right now, but what will plant seeds for a lifetime. And it supports the developmental principles that we talk about all the time here on the OT is In, like interoception, so understanding what's going on inside the body, motor planning, and grasping the why behind movement, not just the what. It's thoughtful, therapeutic, and it's rooted in truth. Getting started is easy, guys. Get instant access to preview the materials, review what's inside, and then you can purchase with confidence. We only get so much time with our kids, and Form helps make every moment count. So learn more at formeducation.org. Now, back to the episode. Welcome back, everyone. So we are here and talking uniquely about weather. And honestly, it's expanding my mind where I think so many times I'm like, yeah, whatever, the weather. Or I get even frustrated when I'm just stuck at this like surface level conversation. But since we've been talking about this, I'm recognizing like how important that is and how it opens our eyes to so many different opportunities throughout our day. So can Ross just give us a little bit more? How do you specifically build this into your day now, like within your own family conversation?
Yeah, it starts with being present, that, hey, it's a beautiful day. And, I say that on almost every day, but,
Yeah.
I'll describe like it's sunny today, or I think this morning it's raining here, or it's going to. So the clouds are dark so it's just starts by being present, aware,
Yeah.
like taking those breaths, kind of labeling. It's kind of humid today. What does that feel like to you?
That means my
So
hair gets huge. That's what that means.
yeah, and the beautiful thing about the Weather Museum and how it ties back to these artifacts is actually in the 50s they would send radiosondes, which is instruments on weather balloons up. They still do it today. It's just gotten more advanced, but back then they were using they wanted to measure humidity, so they used human hair to calibrate because
Look
of
at
that
that.
effect that it changes in humidity and they could calibrate it to get some reading on how much humidity there was. So Yeah,
So
it's
cool.
comes back to, a really a resilient spirit in the weather enterprise
Yeah.
is they saw that that was an effect in the real world. They wanted to measure, so let's test it out, and they could get some readings that way. And so that's a kind of a pioneering spirit, I think, underlies a lot of our artifacts have come from the military that the weather
Yeah.
guys got, and kind of like, well, we want to look at the weather to see what we can see. And but yeah, it's just back to being present and starting the day that way. And then even forecasting, is it going to rain later today? Do we need an umbrella? Do we need to poncho? Let's pack that. So kind of this forward-looking idea of, okay, well, we can read the sky and see what might happen. So let's plan ahead so that we're not caught, without an umbrella.
It's interesting. My husband is a golf course superintendent. And so the majority of our life, especially in the summer, revolves around the weather. And you were mentioning earlier about how it's something that we just lack control in. There's not a single thing that we can control about the weather, but yet he has to react to it all day long, every day. And I can tell you that at the end of a really, really hot, humid day, actually, humidity is typically helpful, but hot day in the middle of July when the sun is beating down, my kids know like he's going to walk in and he's not going to be happy. There's a
Yeah.
definite reaction.
Yeah, there's a certain element it plays in our life, and affects our
Mhm.
mood, and even in sports, you can think we ask questions, of, well, how's the golf ball going to roll on a wet
Yeah.
green as opposed to a dry green? How does that affect something that we have no control over, but we have to practice in it. We have to, think about it because it comes up in some of these sports. So that's, it's a tie-in to another interest that
Mhm.
if maybe you don't like science and math, but maybe you care if you're going to be golfing this weekend. And so understanding that effect and putting numbers to it is kind of what we like to do and teach through
Yeah.
the lens of the student.
And another lens of occupational therapy. So we already talked a little bit about the sensory piece, but so often I'm talking about executive functioning skills, which flexibility of thought, aka problem solving, also that emotional control. So, no, we cannot control the weather. We can control our reaction to it itself. The planning, which then leads into, forward thinking, which you're talking about here. And these develop along the lifespan. But now all of a sudden I'm thinking of how many conversations that I can have with my clients and that parents can be having with their students that actually can help to develop these executive functioning skills. Let's talk a little bit more about this forward thinking, because you've mentioned that a few times in here where you're saying, I can think about, man, it might rain today. I need this umbrella. Great. That's awesome for like the today. What about some other ways that it can tie into, forward thinking throughout?
Yeah, I think we see it a lot, and just kind of taking note of it, of like that, is when you look at a weather broadcast on TV, they're looking 7 days out.
Yeah.
When you look at climate, that's looking out for decades, centuries of how that weather has unfolded and typical patterns you see. We use it in the weather kids to really look at, okay, what do you like to do? What do you enjoy doing? And where do you want that to take you in life? So that could be a career or just a hobby. But speaking to careers, if you're wanting to be a work on an airplane engine, that's a very different path
Yeah.
than if you're going to be teaching, theoretical math or doing
Right.
tornado modeling. You can do both, but if you're going to go down a path, what do you have to do today and tomorrow and the next 5 years to set yourself up to be the very best there? And so it's this looking ahead, knowing what you want to feel like. You don't want to be wet later this afternoon. You need to do certain things. Do you want to be a mechanic? Is that the feeling you want and the life you want? Like, how do you get there? So looking ahead, forecasting, and then bringing it back to today. Well, that isn't. That's next week, or that's next. In the next few years. So, what do I do today to make that possible? And so, we really try to guide that journey and forecast in a sense. So, that's a key part of what we're trying to do.
I love this so much. So we have talked kind of alluding some to the, the Weather Kids app and all that. Can you get a little bit more specific about what that is and how people can find it and get to it, and then also how they can find your other, actually, if they're going to Oklahoma, where are they headed?
Yeah, so we're and in Norman we have a storefront museum. You can visit. We teach all the same curriculum. We've really developed the curriculum out of what we've seen through the years, what sparked joy, how to tell this story and teach. But weatherkids.org, WX Kids, WX is an abbreviation for weather. So anyway, wxkids.org, you can sign up. All the proceeds go to fund it. We're a nonprofit devoted to education and the preservation of these artifacts. We think history, you've got to know where you're going. You kind of need to know where you've been. And so this, back to the forecasting thing. So we think it's important to preserve these artifacts of Doppler radar and the weather plane and the radioson that would use the hair to show, it doesn't have to be where we've come from. It doesn't have to be complicated, but like, how do we evolve that to the latest and greatest technology to understand? And there's really just so much mystery still about weather and how tornadoes develop and forecasting hurricanes and getting it, where's it going to hit, that it's really bigger than ourselves. And so this is a place to start. The curriculum is online. You get a weekly email tied to your location. It has the lesson that you would teach, music, games in a lot of cases. And then there's a learning portal that you get access to all the lessons, all the games, the weather connection, progress. We've built it in a way that the parents are in control of everything. So you can add children underneath, but the parent gets that visibility into what games are, if they're going towards the music games or the chess. We have a weather chess game where, speaking to flexibility that's inherent. I think in any time we think of the weather is like, how's this gonna, is our concert gonna get rained out or delayed? So that flexibility kind of rolling with the flow. So the front chess that we've created is an option where you might get certain rain fronts on the chessboard that the pieces can't go through, or they go through and stop.
Fun.
So how does that change your strategy when the queen has to get stopped halfway through? But you still want to advance. So just keeping people, it's fun, interactive, but also teaching underneath these concepts that we think are really important.
I completely agree. And I love how it all ties together with this common connection, which so many times in the homeschool world, we talk about this connection over curriculum, or connection is more important than, our grades and our checklists of getting everything done. And the way that you have been able to tie everything together within conversation, within the family unit, it's just a beautiful and wonderful thing. So thank you so much for being here, for sharing this with us, and for giving parents another option to look and use their everyday surroundings and also have a really great resource as well.
No, thank you for having me, Sarah. It's been great.
Thanks for tuning into The OT is In. If today's episode got you thinking about some of the underlying skills in handwriting, whether it's how your child holds a pencil, how they sit at the table, or how they move through their day, I've got a resource just for you. You can now download the Motor and Handwriting Assessment at homeschoolot.com. It's a quick and easy tool to help you figure out where your child is thriving and where they might need a little support. So just head to homeschoolot.com/shop to grab your copy, or find a link in the show notes. And as always, thanks for letting me be a part of your homeschool journey. Remember, the OT is always in, and I am so glad that you are here.